Hey everyone, Thyworm here with an extensive SSF video on the breach mechanic. I will explain how it works, why it is good, why it is bad, what you can expect in terms of loot, which Scarabs and Atlas to take, and much more. Let's dive in. Let's first properly introduce the breach mechanic. Breaches can randomly spawn in maps around 8% of the time. When you first encounter them, they are inactive. You need to walk over them. Breaches are recognizable by a purple hand within a purple circle, and purple swirls can be seen within the vicinity too. As soon as you walk over the hand, the breaches activate and expand their circle outwards and spawn a mix of breach monsters. The faster the monsters are killed, the faster the circle expands. After a while, the expansion of the breach will slow down until it eventually retracts quickly and closes. Breaches stay open for a minimum of 30 seconds, increasing to a maximum of 60 seconds based on how quickly breach monsters are killed. Normal monsters killed while in the breach do not increase the timer, it's only for breach monsters. Breach monsters have increased item rarity and quantity, but have a reduced chance to spawn beyond demons, and only rare breach monsters can drop maps. In addition, there is a chance to obtain breach-specific unique items and splinters from these monsters, as well as breach-exclusive breach rings. You can vendor 60 breach rings to get a grasping mail armor, which in 3.25 is also part of the challenge. Each breach has their own type of monsters, splinters, unique items, and a breach lord. Occasionally, or you can guarantee it by using a scarab, a breach lord can spawn from a breach. They will drop several splinters when the breach collapses based on how much damage was dealt to them, up to a maximum of 10 splinters when you kill them. Breaches are inhabited by one of 5 breach lords. Xof, Ash and Tool breaches are significantly more common than Yule Nittle or Chayula. Each breach lord has their own damage type, which is quite obvious once you start paying attention. Ash, for example, does lightning damage, Chayula chaos damage. Breaches also contain clasped hands, a breach-specific type of chest, again in the form of a hand, that opens when a player walks near them. They come in 2 varieties. You have the regular clasped hand and you have the breach lord's clasped hand, like Tool's clasped hand. The latter are bigger and they drop more loot. These chests, or hands, can drop additional splinters and only appear once the breach reaches them. Next to breaches in the map, which is the bulk of this video, there are also the breach lord's domains, which can be entered by putting a regular or flawless breach stone in the map device. We will surely cover this too later in the video. Let's get into the strategy that I ended up using, starting with the prerequisites. The strategy doesn't really have any prerequisites, you can simply run it. It is low investment, you just need a build that has good clear speed and movement speed to make optimal use of the breach mechanic. However, if you do use Scarabs, the mechanic does get a lot better. Breach itself has very few mechanics, actually. What I did is try and walk over as many hands as possible to get all the splinters. The hands inside of a breach may spawn breach lords too. It is easiest to keep an eye on the minimap or the overlay map to see where the breach lords spawn. They're easy to spot on the map. Killing the breach lords provides the most splinters and sometimes breach stones, so it is worth doing. Apart from that, be mindful to not accidentally trigger another breach, which is quite easy to do in some of these maps. Try to clear one breach at a time for maximum gains, although it will take you a little bit longer. Let's talk about the Atlas passive tree and the choices I made. The Atlas is very simple, as I am trying to isolate the mechanic as much as possible for isolated testing. I have taken shrines, scarabs and increased map modifiers, choosing the maps a little bit and to make my character stronger, plus a few map nodes for map sustain. Not that I really need it, but I just didn't want to combine breach with a bunch of other league mechanics. I think that would sort of taint the outcome, right? It would taint the video to an extent. Also, I have Searing Exarch, and all of this is completely optional. You can, of course, if you want, combine it with any other league mechanic that you see fit. Then, looking at the breach nodes, we have the following. Probing the weaknesses is overall breach spawn chance. Evolving Hives adds 3 rares and 30% increased magic monsters, which if killed extend the breach duration, plus they have a chance to drop bleach uniques. Then we take Gatekeepers for more bosses and splinters, and we specifically get Ulnital and Chayula to spawn more often to even out the loot a little bit, as these are the rarest of the Breach Lords. Then there's a very interesting node, the Call of Ksest Ula, which is another super rare Breach Lord that can only spawn if you allocate this node. It is an amalgamation of all the other 5 Breach Lords, I think, and if you encounter it, it is close to unkillable, at least the version that I encountered. The main reason to take this node is not that guy that can spawn, but it is the 15% of the breaches that it spawns the Hand of Ksest Ula, which drops a bunch of different splinters. You can see me open one of these in this clip. Moving up, we take Power Struggle to have a chance of a Breach Lord appearing if you hit a hand in the breach, and Heavy Breach, so you have more time to kill all the monsters and bosses. This is build dependent, but I feel this node helps a lot. If you've got some crazy tornado shot build or something, then maybe you don't need this. Maybe you take the other one that opens and closes the breaches faster, but in my case I like the heavy breaches. Then we take Within Their Grasp for a 4% chance to drop a breach stone, and should you hit that 4% chance, there's another 5% chance that breach stone is flawless. That makes it a 0.2% chance to drop a flawless breach stone from a breach lord, which is super rare, and in 100 maps I didn't get a single one. Eve of Invasion is a cool node which occasionally spawns a bunch of extra breaches, and other worldly artifacts increases the chances of dropping unique breach items, plus it gives more monster density. Small self-plug before Scarabs. Check the description for Google Docs on all my SSF stuff, account name, POBs, atlas trees, etc. There's a Discord link in there as well. I have a guild, Thy Guild, feel free to join in-game. And don't forget to subscribe, guys. Okay, back to the video. For Scarabs, you have 5 different ones available, but 2 are quite rare. I'm not covering those in SSF. I ended up using 2 regular breach scarabs for 4 additional breaches, 2 breach scarabs of splintering for 100% more splinters, and 1 breach scarab of lordship to guarantee your breach lord in every single breach. To figure out how good breach is exactly in Solo Self-Found, I have ran 50 maps with just the Atlas passive tree and breach on the map device, but no scarabs at all. And then I have ran another 50 maps with the same Atlas tree, breach on the map device, and the 5 scarabs that I just mentioned. These maps all have at least 60% quantity, and they're corrupted, rare tier 16 maps with an open layout. For me, it is Jungle Valley. Here is what I've noticed after running 100 maps. For starters, running breach with just the Atlas tree is actually totally viable in Solo Self-Found. It is not like Harbinger or Beyond, where it simply feels pretty bad. No, you get actually decent loot, still a good number of breach stones, and if your goal is to get the breach stones for the Maven invitation, all you need is the Atlas passive tree and the map device. No scarabs are required, I would say. Then I noticed that breach lords in the breaches only drop splinters or sometimes an entire breach stone, but never unique items or blessings. Unique breach items like Xof's Inception weirdly enough only drop from rares. This is backed up by the wiki. Blessings never drop from breaches in maps. They are exclusive to breach lords in their own realm, in their own domain. Looking at the loot from the 50 maps with just the Atlas tree and the map device breach option, I got 9 Xof, 6 Ash, 5 Tool, 4 Ulnital and 2 Chayula breach stones, and only 1 unique Xof's Inception. I got 1 The Chosen divination card, which I think is a lucky drop. Then looking at the loot from the 50 maps where we did use scarabs, we get of course way more loot. So what did we get? Well, I got 30 Xof, 26 Ash, 27 Tool, 31 Ulnital and 16 Chayula breach stones. I got more Ulnital and Chayula because of the Atlas tree, by the way. This leads me to conclude that Xof, Ash and Tool have the same spawn chance. Ulnital is 50% rarer than the other 3, which is offset by the Atlas tree, and Chayula is 50% rarer than Ulnital, again offset by the Atlas tree. It's no surprise you find more breach uniques too, with 4 Xof's Inception, 2 Toolborn and 1 Severed in Sleep. These all seem to drop from rare monsters only. Still, trying to get breach uniques by doing regular map breaches is a pretty bad idea, as these drop rates kinda suck. Also, it's worth noting you're not getting much else out of Breach than what you see in this stash tab, meaning that as a mechanic, it's not very rewarding. You have all these Breach stones, you might as well run them in SSF. I would normally run a bunch of these and report on that as well in this video, explain what to do with them, that sort of thing, but I will likely make that a separate video if I do it at all, to be honest. What I will say, however, is that if you are looking for Breach uniques, running Breach stones is absolutely the way to go. The Breach bosses in their own domain drop way more uniques than breaches in maps. Plus, they can also drop the blessings, which can upgrade Breach stones or those uniques. Apart from this, the loot you're getting has limited value in SSF, making Breach as a mechanic not that amazing, at least in its current state, as tested in 3.25. Last league I ran a similar test, by the way, which was also pretty bad. Let's score the mechanic on a few aspects. These are basically also my pros and cons, if you will, but then categorized. First, fun. I like killing monsters, don't get me wrong, but running 100 Breach maps isn't as fun as I hoped it would be. It's for science and for content, but I am glad it is over. Biggest reason for this is that you have to do a lot of clicking on individual splinters, which is terrible. Another reason for it not being that fun is the loot, well, the lack of it. The time spent in the maps while using Scarabs was roughly 6 minutes, mostly because of all the clicking and opening portals. That's pretty long, especially for not getting much loot. For gold, this strategy isn't amazing either. It's kinda hard to tell, but I don't think the monsters drop much gold, if any gold. I got my standard 10k gold per map, which is the default value at tier 16 for me, it seems. But keep in mind, the maps take around 3 times as long to complete compared to other mechanics or strategies. Rippiness, it's not that bad, although Ash can be very painful with all those lightning monsters. Otherwise, we're all good, I would say. It is a safe mechanic to gain a bunch of XP. Loot is honestly not good. The Breach stones in itself have value, of course, and I'm not running them right now or taking that into account, but they don't provide direct value. You still need to run those, which also take around 4 minutes per stone because they are quite slow. Otherwise, you are hardly getting any loot, so I wouldn't recommend it for juicing at all. And finally, the solo self found value. Again, it is low. It's just not great, guys, what can I say? It's decent XP, it's a lot of monsters, but it's bad loot, it's a lot of clicking, and for what exactly? You can run the Breach stones, but unless you specifically need an item from there, why, other than experience, would you do this? I don't know. I think it is a little bit too tedious to be farming Breach for Breach stones just to run those with an old character for XP. That's not my idea of fun, and I'm playing Solo Self-Found because I want to have fun. So to conclude, it wasn't my best time running Breach. I'm pretty sure that's clear at this point. I still hope you had a good time watching this video though. Let me know what you think. Also let me know if you have any suggestions for future content. Subscribe and like for more PoE SSF guides. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. Love you all. See you soon. Bye bye.